Present it to the American people.
Will we see a declaration from this Congress tomorrow declaring support for force?
What you may see is as early as today.
At earliest today?
You may see it as early as today,
okay,
Kate.
Thank you,
I'm going in to present it now.
Thank you. Senator Joseph Biden on his way to a meeting of the Democratic leaders here in the Senate where they'll try to sort some of this out. Back to you, Miles.
All right, CNN's Kate Snow with Senator Biden. CNN's continuing coverage, America Under Attack. We'll pause momentarily. We'll be right back.
Good morning from New York City today. It is a nasty day as cleanup efforts get underway. The soft rain that we saw earlier this morning has turned into a downpour, severely hampering rescue and cleanup efforts, making it very difficult for those thousands of very brave rescue workers to go into the debris field. It is muddy down there. It is slippery. There is great concern about the stability of what is left of the twin 107-story towers. About 1,000 rescue workers were pulled off their jobs last night because of the lightning and thunder that rumbled through the area. Many of them wearing slickers and rain gear today. Once again, they are working under extremely hazardous conditions. This at a time when the mayor is expected to hold a news conference shortly. He is confirming this morning at least 5,000 people are missing in New York City. There's a great deal of concern about what kinds of conditions will await the president when he arrives here later this afternoon to meet firsthand with some of the very brave Americans who are assisting in this effort. Right now, I wanted to bring you up to date on what we know at this hour. Some interesting news out of Washington. Both black boxes, the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder, have been recovered from the jet that crashed into the Pentagon on Tuesday. And as I've just said, here in New York, it couldn't be any worse for all those workers that are joining in the recovery efforts at the World Trade Center. Once again, the rain was so heavy overnight, the search suspended. Great concern about the cranes potentially conducting electricity if lightning struck. 4,763 people missing. Actually, since then, the city has told us more than that. They are saying at least 5,000 missing. President, of course, coming here later today following a memorial service in Washington, D.C. Services of this kind will be held throughout the nation today. Europeans paused for 3 minutes of silence this morning in memory of those killed Tuesday in the United States. Let's take a short pause here. The Council of Europe and the 15 members of the European Union called on all nations to combat terrorism and defend human values. Meanwhile, CNN has obtained exclusive video recorded from the inside of a World Trade Center office on Tuesday, the day of the attacks. The video shows the debris in the office and, through a gaping hole in the wall, which you'll see here shortly, the mountains of rubble outside the Trade Center. It's a miracle anybody got out of here. Right now, I'm going to join Martin Savage, who is at Ground Zero, who is continuing to deal with heavy rain that might wreak havoc on his live shot. But Martin will stay with you as long as the television equipment allows us to do so. What's going on there?
We'll do the same, Paula. Well, it's the rain, it's the weather. That is the major story or headline, at least for the moment, when it comes to the rescue operation that is continuing. Right now, according to rescuers and volunteers who have been coming off the night shift, they say that the weather has had a significant negative impact on their ability to search for a lot of reasons. One, it has made the debris pile in the area they're working in very hazardous. Footing there is very slippery. Hardly a volunteer that has not been slightly injured in some way or another, scrape hands, bruised and battered as they try to go about the work of searching. This is one of the checkpoints here that's several blocks north of where the World Trade Center once stood. It is one of the closest points that you can get. It's also a point where the teams are coming and going. They report that the rains, which have been steady this morning, last night, were extremely heavy. About 2 a.m., they said, was the worst. Lightning was bad. They had to evacuate at times because of that lightning, stopped some of the work. The hand digging for now has pretty much been brought to a standstill. Instead, what is being done is the work by the heavy earth-moving equipment. Also, the iron workers are using the welding and the acetylene torches to cut through all the steel. But you've also got the wind in addition to the rain, and the wind and rain combination is putting load factors on top of buildings that are not structurally sound, and that is the serious problem here. They were already weakened yesterday. They were already in fear of falling down. Now you add the wind, which may not seem significant, but even the slightest wind at this particular point, plus the rain combined with it, has got to make engineers there very nervous. Of course, it's the engineers that stand by the buildings, literally watching them moment to moment, keeping an eye on them, sort of watching the backs of all the rescuers that are down in the pits or down digging, trying to find survivors. The moment any word is heard, everyone immediately leaves the area and evacuates. Listening is the greatest tool they have right now, and one of the most dramatic scenes. We've seen it on tape, we've heard it from the volunteers. You have thousands sometimes of people working sort of en masse over this debris field. And then someone will call for quiet, and it spreads throughout the entire complex. The shout passed from one worker to the next. And this huge complex, all those workers and machinery instantly shut down, and it goes silent. And they listen, and they hope. They say, not since yesterday, though, have they heard anything. And the rain, obviously, and the wind, making it even harder still. Paula?
Martin, continued good luck to all those heroic Americans down there. Thank you so much for that update. We'll come back to you throughout the morning. Joining me right now is Amy Steelman and Lou Angeli. You both have been firefighters for many, many years. You were invited by the International Association of Firefighters to help us better understand what your brethren are up to at this hour. You actually make instructional videos for firemen. What I'd like for you to do for us now, we're going to put up on the screen some of the video you were able to shoot on Wednesday night down at Ground Zero. Extremely treacherous conditions. Describe to us what you're seeing or what you saw as soon as this video comes up. Either one of you. I know this is difficult for you. And if you can't see the picture, just tell me what you saw when you went down there.
Okay, this is from building number 5. Actually, this was Ground Zero. There were just thousands of firefighters staging in the area at this time. I think the thing that impressed me the most at this point was the work of the operating engineers, the folks the steel and structural people, who were removing huge chunks of debris and finessing these huge girders and stuff so that the firefighters and the rescue teams could actually go in and sift through the rubble.
How dangerous is it?
It's extremely dangerous. The buildings are unstable. Firefighters, as seen here, are having injuries. Amy ended up getting injured yesterday.
What happened to you?
I think it was an accumulation. But Wednesday, we spent the entire day, the entire evening at Ground Zero, and I had a lot of chest pain, a lot of discomfort trying to breathe. And then we were coming back yesterday to shoot again, and I ended up in the hospital. I had a seizure, and
oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And what you experienced, I'm sure, is very similar to what those firefighters on duty and other rescue workers are up against.
It's ludicrous to think that these little paper masks that they're running around wearing are efficient at filtering the oppressiveness of the air down there. It's full of fibrous materials. You can feel how heavy and how thick the air gets the closer you become with Ground Zero. And most of those guys, God love them, are out there without really any kind of protection for their lungs at all.
They are well aware of the risks they're taking.
I don't know that they're aware of the risks that they're taking. I don't know that there has been an influx of equipment to handle that problem, as far as breathing apparatus, and you were talking about specific kinds of masks.
Right now at Ground Zero, there are 3 levels of firefighters and 3 levels of training. The Fire Department of New York, of course, it's their jurisdiction, and their firefighters are there and doing a lot of the moving of debris and checking for bodies and survivors. And we have urban search and rescue teams who've come in from all over the country. I believe that there are 14 here now of the 28 that operate throughout the United States. These teams are special teams that do nothing but search and rescue.
And there are 75 members on each team.
And they come in. You can tell the difference because they wear a blue jumpsuit and usually have a white hard hat. But the kind of respirators that they're using, we would call a half-mask respirator with 2 filters on it. Those are the kind of respirators that these firefighters need, and it's just not something that the fire department has in inventory.
Well, should it? I mean, now that we've seen the magnitude of something like this happening, are you angry that your fellow firefighters are down there breathing this stuff that sent you to the hospital yesterday?
What needs to be understood is that firefighters and rescue personnel are just now getting their first taste of being trained for terrorist activity.
And how are they
This is
doing?
not our training.
As best they can, right?
As best they can.
But they are
the limited-
severely compromised, are they
That's
not,
right.
by
That's
the
right.
lack
This
of
is-
equipment?
Kurt Weldon, Congressman Kurt Weldon from Pennsylvania, has been working this angle for several years. We've been trying to get firefighters trained to learn domestic terrorism response. Certainly when the first firefighters arrived at the World Trade Center, what they faced was a blazing liquid, flammable liquid fire. They certainly didn't anticipate that another jet would crash in, nor would the 2 buildings collapse on them. And so we as firefighters perhaps need to start thinking like soldiers and like the military.
Well, isn't that sad?
We have no choice. If this is what we're going to face, and we have to be trained for our own safety as well as the safety of, the people around us, how to respond appropriately.
It is very difficult right now because everybody's skirting around the edges of this question to tell the American public right now about what impact this rain is going to have on this effort. We have seen that rain come down and down for many hours. Be as honest as you can this morning about what that means.
Now,
Lou?
Paula, there will definitely be a delay in the operation. The rain causes another problem in the sense that it creates a safety hazard for the rescuers themselves, a major safety hazard. It becomes a slipping hazard.
It was already slippery out there before the rain, just from all the water that they've been putting on the fires and it running out. It was already a mess. I can't imagine what this has done to Ground Zero at this point.
Well, what's interesting about the television coverage, too, is that we see Ground Zero from Ground Zero, which would be
It looks quite clinical, these shots that we're seeing right now.
But
not your shots.
when we get there and we walk around the circumference or the diameter of the area and check the perimeters, there are little operations, little pockets of rescue activity that are going on all the way around that area. And it'd be kind of interesting for the news services to start getting some shots from the south side of the building to get an idea of what's going on there, because we've seen a number of rescue activities going on around the buildings.
I hope you know, and we're going to show you some video now that might help you better understand this, how the American public is reacting to the heroism we've seen displayed during this horrendous period of our history. Here are a group of New Yorkers who started to applaud firefighters as they walk through a part of New York. I will tell you, every time I report these statistics about the numbers of your fellow firefighters you have lost, you get the same kind of reaction. It's touched a very raw nerve. You understand that, don't you?
We understand it very well. When we were going in on Tuesday, when we were coming out of Ground Zero on Tuesday, the people of New York have the biggest heart that I've ever seen. They were handing out food, they were handing out water. Many of the restaurants around that are open will feed firefighters for free. And it just, they applaud, they hold up signs, they say thank you, they come up, they hug you. And we're just out there doing what we do.
And I
None
guess
of that is necessary but it's just, that's what moves you more than anything else. It's hard to figure out exactly the loss of life when you're right up on top of things, because you're looking at a pile of rubble. You know, it's hard to imagine how many people lost their life.